Zoe here, and you know what? Some shows you just watch and they just stick with you forever, even from childhood. And much to my surprise, I was once a child who watched cartoons, as opposed to an adult who watches cartoons. A lot has changed since I was 12, but apparently not my favorite choice of media, meaning anime and cartoons. So today I'm going to be making fan art of some of those cartoons that have stuck with me for all of these years. I truly wish I started learning to draw before my senior year in high school because my notebook would have been full of doodles from these shows, as well as things like DBZ and Naruto, Bleach. Well, instead of me rambling about baby me not finding out about my favorite hobby, let's just get into the speed draw. Oh boy, did this first one take me a long time to draw. Or at least it felt like it took me a long time to draw, mostly because I had to draw armor and make sure that armor looked good. Armor takes a long time to draw, and I'm glad I don't do mechas. I, of course, am talking about Star Wars The Clone Wars, the 2008 version. I've only seen clips from the 2003 version, but it does look good. Perhaps I'll try and see if I can find it somewhere to watch. Anywho, I've always loved Star Wars. I remember when I was a small child, I had a bunk bed, and the ladder to the top bunk was at an angle instead of straight up and down. I would frequently sit behind the ladder, and looking through it, the bars made me think of like an X-Wing cockpit. So, of course, I've spent an incredible amount of time pretending to be an X-Wing pilot. So, when I first saw the Clone Wars, I was completely enamored. It probably helps that the first Star Wars I saw in theaters was Attack of the Clones when I was like 5. I've always loved the clones, and the Clone Wars only made that love grow. They all look the same but are different. That's so cool. This thought would never apply to identical twins. Not sure why. Probably just wasn't enough of them in the sibling unit. Have tried being identical quintuplets all named some variation of Bert? No, I'm not going to elaborate. Where was I? Oh, right, the Clone Wars. So, I would frequently go over to my friend's house just to watch the newest episodes when they were released, and it was a good time. I specifically remember the one where Obi-Wan had to disguise himself as a bounty hunter to infiltrate a separatist bounty hunter recruitment challenge thing. Kinda like Squid Games, but everyone is a trained killer. At least I assume it's like Squid Games. I haven't actually seen it because, it's not an anime or cartoon, so I clearly can't watch it. Truly though, my favorite part of the Clone Wars was the episodes where named clones appeared and we got to see their characters develop, especially Fives and Echoes. I loved them from the beginning episodes where they were introduced. I was also very sad at the end of Fives' story. I won't spoil what happens because this isn't a review, but you can probably guess the end result of a clone fighting in a war in a clone army. So the piece I am working on was based on one of the last episodes of Season 7. Side note, when Season 7 was announced, I screamed and pissed and shit in excitement. I made sure to show my friend, who had never seen the show at all of the trailers, and they were indeed confused on why I was so excited. I did explain in detail. They couldn't understand. Anyways, the scene I'm talking about would be the scene with Ahsoka standing in front of a bunch of blaster rifles sticking out of the ground with clone helmets on them. I would like to think that's how some of the clones regularly buried fellow clones if they had the opportunity to do so. So I made one clone trooper saying goodbye to one of his brothers buried in a similar fashion. They are surrounded by a ruined city after a battle. Not sure what planet or if they were attacking or defending, but I don't really think that matters. The point was to show the love that the clones had for each other. I was going to add special paint to their Phase 2 armor, but after 2.5 hours I really didn't feel like it, so, I don't know what clone regiment that these guys would belong to. Although I suppose that also doesn't really matter. I would like to imagine scenes like this happening throughout the Clone Wars. It would just kind of make sense given the characterization we got in the series of the clones. Anyways, I think that I have yapped enough about this show, and we should be moving on to the next one. So let's go ahead and do that. This next one has influenced me in so many ways, and people who worked on some of my other favorite cartoons worked on this one. So yeah, I would say Gravity Falls has changed my life and lives in my head rent-free. Life-changing may be a bit of an exaggeration, but it does get the point across. It was one of those shows that gave me a sense of wonder for the world around the characters. It truly made me want to explore and discover what else is out there. It's similar to how the show Hilda makes me feel, except the vibe is different. Hilda has more of a vibe about loving and appreciating nature, where Gravity Falls is more about exploring the abnormalities throughout the town. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Hilda's magical creatures are more well known and aren't secret, but Gravity Falls' magical creatures are a part of a secret world. Not sure why I went on a tangent about the differences between the vibes of the two shows. This isn't a video essay comparing and contrasting the writing styles of the two shows. Oh well, Gravity Falls did give me an appreciation for the mystery genre. When I was younger, I just assumed that mysteries were for, well, not old people, but people older than me. I wasn't one of the people who did the research or decoding the messages at the ends of each episodes, which I would have if the show was to come out in, I guess now, as opposed to 2012 or 2013 whenever it aired. Either way, it was my proper introduction to the mystery genre. It was truly a fun time. The most influence it had on me is from a writing perspective. I now try to incorporate more mystery elements into stories that I tell. Mostly in D&D when I would occasionally DM for a group of friends. Unfortunately, they rarely picked up the threads of the mysteries, which either means I suck at writing them, clues were too subtle, or the group didn't realize that there was a mystery plotline they were kind of supposed to be picking up on, or it could be a combination of the three. Or they were just, extremely disinterested in it and didn't bother to investigate, and didn't say anything about their disinterest to me out of character so that I could know to change directions. Poor self-esteem says it was that one. As for the artwork, I chose to go with something that was similar to one of the promo arts, or is it called title art? I'm not sure of the official term, hopefully you get the picture. So it was Dipper and Mabel walking through the woods, Dipper reading Journal 3, and Mabel joining him on whatever he's investigating. In the background, I put the giant foot from the promo/title art I was basing this on. In the background, I did put the top of the Bill statue, just kind of way back there, just as a little detail to add, and in the foreground, I plopped down a fairy circle. I don't recall if the show did anything with fairy circles, but it would surprise me if they didn't exist in this setting. I mean, fairies do, so why not fairy circles? I added them mainly as just a way to add details into the image that I thought would be cool and would differ from the promo/title art that I was looking at. Anyways, that's about it for my time with Gravity Falls. Summer ends, and it's time to move on to the next drawing. It also means we don't get a season 3. Lastly, we have a show that truly makes you want to ask what time is it. That's right, it's Adventure Time. I would watch every new episode with both my siblings when they were released for quite a long time. It was kind of our weekly show. We actually had a few. Regular Show was one of those, as well as DBZ when it aired on not Toonami, but Cartoon Network. It also may have been on Toonami, but I don't think that's the version we were watching. There weren't things like blood, so I assumed it was a censored version for Cartoon Network. Moving on, after the first few episodes Marceline was in, I was like, oh my god, she is so cool, I wish I could be here. At the time, I just met like a badass bass guitarist who had an axe bass guitar. Now I know better. It's not about the bass guitar. It's about presentation. And the attitude, I guess. And yet I'm nothing like her. I guess I'm just not that cool. Oh well, I guess I'll just settle for her having been my first cartoon character crush. I thought that was going to be Wendy from Gravity Falls, but then I looked up Adventure Time's release date and it was 2010, so I guess Marceline won that contest. Didn't realize it was a contest until now, but the more you know. Despite the show's slow pace, I loved the character development over its 7 seasons. I think it was 7. I especially loved the Ice King's development. Finding out how he wound up in his current mental state and his relationship with Marceline was just heart-wrenching. I genuinely felt bad for him, which was a thought I never would have had in the earlier seasons. I originally stopped watching the show, I want to say around season 3 or 4? Not sure which, but when I heard that the show had finally reached its end, I found a place to watch it and started back at season 1. Unsurprisingly, to current me, my favorite episodes were always the Fiona and Cake episodes. Little Egg Me had no idea why they were so fascinated with the concept of Finn and Jake, but as girls, I just held the episodes and was like, you mean so much to me, and I don't even know why. And the episodes were like, I don't even know who you are. Don't worry, Little Egg, you'll figure it out eventually. When the first season of Fiona and Cake was announced, I was so hyped. It was all my favorite things about Adventure Time, but for an older audience. I do want another season. I hope there's another season. It'd be brilliant if there could be another season. I have no idea if they're going to do one, though. As for the drawing, I wanted to draw Finn and Jake. I put them in the location they live, kind of near the mountains to where the Ice King lives, like kind of in those hill area. Perhaps they're off to rescue a princess of some sort that the Ice King had kidnapped. Jake himself has taken the form of a Jacob horse, mostly because I would never try and draw a real horse, and I wanted to draw Finn riding a horse with his sword at the ready. And I decided to give Finn one of his metal arms. I say one of his metal arms, one of his prosthetic arms. He's had several arms. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to draw one, and that was the first one that I saw. I know he also has a leaf one at some point, and that's really cool, but we went with metal. That's all there is to it. Also, Finn with a nose looks super weird. Well, that's it for this drawing. I hope you had a good adventure time. That's all I got for this episode. It was basically my excuse to go and have nostalgia for old TV shows and feel the desire to rewatch them. I've only seen Adventure Time all the way through once, which is odd because I've seen all of the others like 3 times. And also, I didn't mention Avatar: The Last Airbender. Perhaps I should have done a 4th drawing. Or I could do like a part 2 at some point in the future. I guess it depends on how well this video does. Anyways, I'm gonna start wrapping this up. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe for more. If you feel the need, feel free to drop a comment down below. Also, I have a comic series you can find on Tapas. It's called Mesozoic. Link in the description. And finally, if you want to support me or you want to commission me, you can head on over to my Ko-fi. Again, link in the description. See you in the next video I make. Bye!